Let's now get you some news from the Supreme Court. The court took up the mercy plea of 1993 Mumbai serial blast convict Yakub Menon today, but there has been no decision on it so far. Remember, Yakub Menon has made an appeal for his execution to be stayed. His execution is scheduled to take place on the 30th of this month. That's 3 days from now. But there has been no decision so far by the top court on his mercy plea. The hearing, we are told, is going to continue tomorrow. But as of now, significantly, the court has not stayed the execution. Of course, that's not a final decision because the hearing will resume tomorrow. Tracking that story for us is my colleague Siddharth Pandey, who now joins us on the phone line. Siddharth, no decision so far. Has the court said anything at all on the plea?
Well, in fact, lengthy arguments in court today, and the fact is that the arguments are going to continue tomorrow as well. That's the first thing that the court will hear tomorrow at around 10:30 when this matter is taken up. But today, in fact, both the government as well as Menon's side expressing their points of view. In fact, the Supreme Court has also asked that what happens if this putative petition keeps on getting filed again and again. These are various questions that were raised by the Supreme Court today, but it seems that both the government as well as Menon's side legal team have further arguments. These arguments will essentially in court. So for the moment, no intervention by the Supreme Court. The death warrant stands said, but of course what's going to be important is the Supreme Court will be hearing this matter tomorrow first thing in the morning and take a decision whether it needs to intervene. Menon's in fact saying that they want a postponement or at least a stay on the death warrant that has already been issued. That was their plea. But clearly the arguments are not completely clear, and both the government as well as Menon's legal team now have further extensive arguments which they will present to the court tomorrow.
Right, very quickly, Siddharth, before we let you go, have Yakub Menon's lawyers made the argument that mercy should be shown to him because he surrendered? Because that is something that has come out in the media in the last few days, though it's been denied categorically by the public prosecutor in the case.
Well, in fact, the bulk of the argument today centers on the fact that when the death warrant was secured from the jail authorities, it was not communicated to Menon until a pretty substantial, lengthy amount of time. He was only told about this several months later. So essentially, that curtailed his rights, that curtailed his 90-day window in which he could have sought legal remedies. So that seems to have been the bulk of his argument in court today, saying that he was not given a proper time opportunity to prepare his case, and that is why on that ground alone perhaps right now there should be a stay on the death warrant. Of course, that particular argument that a former intelligence officer has written a book in which he has said that Menon was in fact cooperating. That is something that the legal team has been talking about, but that didn't really come up in court today. It remains to be seen whether they'll actually bring up some of these points tomorrow. But the bulk of the argument should center around the fact that since he was only informed about the death warrant pretty late in the stage, long after it had been secured by the government, that denied him the proper remedy to try and appeal against this. And that seems to be the bulk of his argument in court today. But his legal team has said that there are several other points that they would wish to raise. And so the court will now hear this matter first thing tomorrow morning at 10:30.
Right, but also significantly, Siddharth, you were saying that there has been no decision, no stay on the execution so far. The final decision may actually come from the Supreme Court tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, Menon's legal team had wanted some sort of intervention, a stay, if you will, right now, but that the court did not really go into, saying that it would hear the matter tomorrow. And obviously, the fact is a decision would have to be taken. The fact that the death warrant as of right now stays. What's also interesting is, of course, the government saying that this is perhaps a second arrow in the bow. So how long can it continue like this? The Supreme Court, of course, knows that there is a time limitation it's looking at. So tomorrow it's going to be pretty high up on the priority as it comes up first thing in the morning at 10:30.
Right, Siddharth, thanks very much for bringing us all those details. So no decision on Yakub Menon's mercy plea by the Supreme Court today, but the matter will come up for hearing again tomorrow. And as Siddharth mentioned there, we can perhaps expect a decision tomorrow because his hanging is scheduled to take place on the 30th. That's 3 days from now. And Yakub Menon's lawyers making the argument that he wasn't given enough time to exhaust all his legal options before the death warrant was actually issued. And that is something that they have challenged in the Supreme Court.